He wrote, "Abundance." We prayed that the Lord would deliver us from financial bondage. A dear friend suggested that we read a book called Money, Possessions, and Eternity by Randy Alcorn. He wrote, "Abundance isn't God's provision for me to live in luxury. It's His provision for me to help others live. God entrusts me with this money, His money, not to build my kingdom on earth, but to build His kingdom in heaven." Then we began to see our money and material possessions with spiritual lenses and with an eternal perspective. We also remembered the words of Pastor Peter. Every financial transaction is a spiritual decision. After much prayer, we asked our children if it would be okay to sell our house. Surprisingly, they said, "Mom and Dad, it's okay. It's the people who live in the house that make it a home. Let's sell it. We can make new memories. It's going to be okay."
I praise God that at an early age, our children understood that life was more than just our possessions, and our true home was in heaven. But the example and conviction had to begin with us as their parents. With that, we finally made the big decision to let go of our house and scale down. And as only our amazing God could do, He orchestrated a house swap with a family who lived in the same village. Our house for their smaller one, but this time, debt-free. God had now redeemed us from financial slavery, and it was liberating. Our small groups witnessed what we went through in this awesome financial family who lived in. We finally made the big decision to let go of our house and scale down. And as only our amazing God could do, He orchestrated a house swap with a family who lived in the same village. Our house for their smaller one, but this time, debt-free. God had now redeemed us from financial slavery, and it was liberating. Our small groups witnessed what we went through, and this also impacted them on how they viewed and managed their money and possessions. They became more conscious about their attachments to worldly things, and this also challenged them to live simpler lives and give towards God's kingdom. It was a turning point in our lives, but the process wasn't over.
The truth is that even after we obeyed, we were faced with more challenges. Last year, Blue lost his job, was hospitalized multiple times, and even had a cancer scare. God also revealed some more issues in our marriage that we had to deal with. It was a very difficult year for us, but this was all part of God's plan to redeem us completely. Just like how Jesus redeemed us from the debt of sin, He healed and strengthened our marriage through His love and with the help of our disciplers. Letting go of our house was just the beginning of the Lord's sweeping through every part of our lives to fix us from the inside out. God also led Blue to another job that gave him a new purpose in serving others. His health is at the best it has ever been. It's like God gave me a new husband.
God pulled us back from a life that valued career and materialism and reminded us that life should be all about Him and all for Him. Emily and I are still works in progress. He is teaching us to delight in the promise of His faithfulness more than the desire for material gain. And while God has faithfully provided for us and our family, He has also challenged us to give more for the work of His kingdom. As Randy Alcorn also said, too often we assume that God has increased our income to increase our standard of living, when His stated purpose is to increase our standard of giving. Through our journey, we learned that the problem with materialism is that it doesn't just change a person's lifestyle, it changes the soul. Materialism corrupts the other areas of our lives. Therefore, Emily and I needed the soul maker to fix our souls according to how He purposed for us to be. Souls that long for His presence and find contentment in His love. Our God is a gracious God, and He is a patient God. He is teaching us to keep our lives free from the love of money and be content with what we have, because He promises that He will never leave us nor forsake us. This promise of His presence continues to be true in our lives. so that whether He gives or whether He takes away, our prayer is that we will always be able to say, "Blessed be the name of the Lord." To God alone be all the glory, honor, and praise.